Welcome to everyone to Rise and Shine with Morning Moon. My name is Coach Lacy. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Monday. If you haven't already, please sure to hit the subscribe button or the follow button wherever you found me on the big wild web. Today we're talking about being judgmental. Now, you guys, after the weekend I've had some really wonderful experiences. I hope you guys had a really awesome 4th of July. But one thing that I noticed this weekend was that invisible microscope that some of y'all are wearing around like a badge of honor, and that is your judgment glasses. Geez, I just cannot believe how many judgmental Bettys who are just looking for flaws. Those flaw finder glasses. Zoomed in on everybody else's mess while your own chaos is just boiling over in the background. Here's looking at you, kid. I get it. I get it. I used to be top tier judgmental when I was in my 20s. Front row seat at the bench in the mall with my cousin, giving strangers Olympic scores for their parenting, their outfits, their weight, whatever flaw I could find. You bet your butt, I made fun of it. hmm But the funny thing is that while I was judging others, I was a complete shit show. Complete shit show. I was angry, I was addicted, I was insecure, manipulative, rude, fake confident, snarky. I'm still snarky, but I do my best not to judge. And I know a lot of people out there say they don't judge, but are you really not judging? Like, are you really? Have you taken a good hard look in the mirror, right? Like, I remember using judgment as a deflection for myself. It was basically like a cheap hit of ego when I was actually just drowning in my own shame and fear of judgment of others. And that's all it is judgment is just shame hiding behind your ego, pretending like it's insight. We judge others what we fear in ourselves. You're judging people for being too loud. You're terrified of being heard. You're judging people for always posting online. Well, you might want to be seen, but you can't even take a look in your own reflection, right? Hear that all the time. Oh, you post too much, or you're too loud. And really the truth is we don't hate what we haven't already wrestled with. We hate the things that we have buried, those things, the shame that we buried deep down inside. I mean, I used to tear other women down in my head all the time back when I was overweight. And you bet your butt that if they were prettier or skinnier or more confident or more successful than me, automatic target, zoning right in on that. And deep down, all under all that hate was straight up just jealousy and shame for my own inability to take a look in the mirror and make changes, because sometimes we can't really take a good hard look at ourselves, and it's exactly what we need to do is take a good hard look in the mirror and say, what can I do to make a change? Because we look at people through those glasses of judgment, and we don't look at ourselves. And we wish that we could have the type of freedom that other people have. And instead you know, we start judging them, and we just label them, roll our eyes, you know, um, you know, shirk them off, because it's easier to judge and to label people rather than sitting with that ache of why am I not good enough? Or taking a look in the mirror and saying, it's time for me to make a change. Maybe I should, go to the gym. Maybe I need to have different clothes. Maybe I need to show up in a more fruitful way. Maybe I need to, listen a little better. I can think of one time, for example, that I thought that one of my friends was just extra as heck, and she was super loud, just too much, and always taking risks, and just trying to always be the center of attention. And I was like, what is up with this chick? Why is she so much? What's up with her? Like, what the heck? And I remember just judging her greatly. And it turns out that, she had someone she loved that had just died, and that was before I had to sit with my own grief, and I didn't really understand grief at that time and how it manifests. And so I found myself being incredibly judgmental. And she was just trying to survive, and she was just trying to grieve her loss, and I didn't even ask what was going on in her life, and I didn't even care because it was all about me. And I just assumed that I knew, and I just assumed that her ego was inflated when really it was me. And so that made me realize what a jerk I could be, and that you just never know what darkness someone is walking through. And then I had my own moment of grief, and uh, I understood the risk taking. I understood the living your life to the fullest. I understood trying to be more, and I understood showing up in a different way and making a change because I was trying to survive my own storm. And it was only after I had that experience of deep grief that I really could understand what someone was going through when they had a deep loss. And you don't know what people are going through. You don't know what someone's battle is until you really, ask and sit down and listen. And sometimes we just need to listen and take a good hard look in the mirror, and instead of just assuming that we know and just assuming that we have all the answers, because we don't. And we justify our own bad behavior by saying things like, oh, I was just tired, or I was just hungry, or, my childhood sucked. That's a huge one. That's a huge one. Recently, there has been some infighting in my own extended family, and the excuse around it is my childhood, this, that, and the other thing, the past, the past, the past. And this has been used on both sides of the fence to justify bad behavior and judgment and people calling each other names, but, you know, getting mad at others who are doing the same. Doesn't make any sense. And these judgments are harsh, and we think we know what someone has been through, and we think that we have all the answers. And when someone else screws up, we're so easy to say that they were a narcissist, or they're garbage, or they're lazy, or they don't know, or they're mean, or they did X, Y, and Z, or this happened when I was a child, and all of these justifications and all of these excuses and excuses and excuses. But yet we allow ourselves to act in a similar manner and don't even see it. And the hypocrisy in that is just staggering to me. And I do it myself, but I try to be mindful of my pride and my ego and recognize that I don't have all the answers, that I don't know everything, that I'm not always right, and that I can be wrong, you know? And that grace that we give ourselves, we literally withhold that from other people in moments of chaos, in moments of disappointment, in moments of hurt and pain and shame. And that again is just pride. It's just pride. And when we tear people down, we have this, you know, momentary ego inflation that gives you a hit of dopamine to make you feel good. And tearing yourself down for that momentary ego inflation, that's not long term. That's not going to build you up. That's not going to help the world. That's not going to help people. That's not going to make you look any better. That's not going to make you look like the hero. It just makes you look like a jerk. Stop using your childhood as an excuse to treat people like crap. Stop using, their behavior as an excuse to treat them the same way or worse than they treated you. Why not treat people who treat you badly with kindness and grace and love and set the example rather than keep the chaos going? It doesn't make sense. And then walking around saying that we're Christian or saying that we're healed. No. Healed people and Christians, they leave their judgment at the door. They get curious about people and they wonder what's going on with them. Maybe there's something deeper going on below the surface that I can't see. Maybe this person is coping with a situation like, like getting when you get older, for example, you can be more cantankerous and grumpy. Well, maybe, that person is in pain. Maybe they don't have resources. Maybe they're not sure how to cope with getting older. Maybe they're trying to cope with the fact that they've had multiple losses throughout the years, not just one or two, but people they know and love are just dying here, left, right, and the other place, and coping with the loss of a former self of who they used to be. Like, why treat someone who's going through the fire even worse? Why? Because they said something mean to you? Get over yourself. Get over it. If you're actually healed and you're actually a Christian, stop making things about you. Stop making things about how you feel and what they did to you. Maybe it's time to take a good hard look in the mirror and say, you know what? My actions contributed to this issue. My words contributed to this, and how can I make things better rather than make things worse? And instead of gossiping and slandering and telling people all these different stories and scenarios, maybe take a pause and say, what's really going on here? Because maybe there's something a little deeper beyond the surface that could just be healed with a little kindness, a little love, a little going the extra mile, not just the bare minimum. What are you doing in your life that is the bare minimum for other people? And I'm not just speaking to you, the watcher, I'm speaking to myself too. I'm not up here saying that I'm, the best at not judging because I'm not, because I do judge still, but I'm healing and I'm trying to understand where people are coming from. So instead of, judging and gossiping and slandering, I try to get curious and say, okay, what's going on this deeper level and how can I help? And what can I do, even if it's just with a kind word, to make a change? Because you know what? Words do make a difference. It's not all about just actions. Like actions, yes, actions create reaction, but words can cut deeper and words can linger and words can create rifts bigger than the freaking Grand Canyon. And if we're not careful with our words and we're not careful with our judgments and we're not careful with our chaos and our drama and our gossip, it will create rifts in family systems, friend systems, business systems. Our words create realities. And if we are not careful with them, it can change everything. So try instead of gossiping to understand where someone's coming from. Try instead of slandering to see the deeper picture. To actually say, you know what? That person's going through a really difficult time right now. Maybe instead of judging them, I can sit with them and listen. Say, hey, I noticed that you've been showing up in this way that seems a little crazy to me. What's going on? What's going on with you? And maybe they spit some verbal diarrhea, at you and say some mean stuff or whatever. And that's just know that's a reflection of them. Sure, you don't have to take that abuse, but you also don't have to take it to heart. People are so quick to get offended instead of loving others and being there for them and showing up in a way that's fruitful, you get offended and then put walls up and start judging and gossiping and slandering rather than saying, you know what, that person is really hurting. How can I forgive them for knowing not what they do? And I'll let this just, bounce off me like water on a duck and help them, help them. How can I help them? How can I help them? Oh, they don't want my help right now. Well, maybe I can just do this and lead them to water. And if they don't drink, they don't drink. But at least I did my part. And instead of getting frustrated with people that they didn't do exactly what you wanted them to do, understanding where they're coming from and understanding what it is that they need in that moment rather than being so judgmental and looking for others' flaws and making it all about you and inflating your ego. Again, that's just a sign of someone who needs to heal a little deeper and should probably get tighter on their walk. So take those flaw finder glasses off because those glasses are killing relationships. Burn them. Burn them. Stop it. Knock it off. You know, replace flaw finding with grace. Get curious about people. What are they going through? And have some humility. Have some humility for people that are even closest to you because you know what? The people that are closest to us, we tend not to see them. It's the law of familiarity. The law of familiarity is dangerous because we don't see people who for they really are when we're too close to them, unless we have the ability to really, really take a good hard look at ourselves and take a good hard look at situations. That's one of my gifts. I'm able to do that. I don't know why God has given me the gift of grace. I am probably one of the single most forgiving humans on the planet. You could treat me like dirt and I'm not going to take it personally. That's just how I am. I mean, and I'll forgive you for it. And I would encourage more people to be that way because that is how we can get through the chaos and difficulty and shame and judgment and gossip and some people might say, oh well, you just let toxic people run all over you, and that's not true. I can see why they're being toxic and challenge them by forgiving them and showing them the love they don't even know how to give them to themselves, and that challenges others around me to step it up a little bit because we all should be as forgiving as Jesus, really. Did Jesus judge and slander and gossip about people while he's hanging on the cross? Or did he just take it like a man and he knew? He knew what his calling was and that he recognized that humans were flawed and they were angry and they were hurting and full of ego and say, you know what? Lord, forgive them. They do not know what they do not know what they do. I take that approach on life and I'm better for it. It has made the people around me better for it and it has made me better for it. And I truly believe that grace that for some god awful reason, this tender heart of me mercy that I don't get offended very easily has helped me along greatly and it has helped me out of the trenches of hell. I can sit with someone on their darkest day and try, I'll probably judge them. I'm not going to lie. I will judge and say, my God, what a shit show you are. But I'm not going to hate on you for it. And I'm not going to cut you out of my life. And I'm not going to be mean. And I'm not going to be spiteful. And I'm not going to get back at you or do something crazy because you didn't do what I wanted you to do. I'm just going to say, oh, well, you learned that lesson and we're going to just move on. If you want to continue to grow and learn and do something different and evolve in this life, might want to love yourself a little bit and love others because the way that we treat others is a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. And I'm not meaning to go on a rant here, but the last week has been very eye-opening to me about wounds of the heart and where people are at in their own walk. And you can be freaking 80 years old, you can be 60 years old, and you could still have your childhood wounds that you're licking affecting how you treat other people. And then they make an excuse for it. Well, they did this, that, and the other thing. Well, they did this, they did that. I blah, 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 blah. They didn't do this, they didn't do that. Who cares? Get over yourself. Get over yourself and love people like Jesus loved people and stop pretending that you have all the answers because you don't. And until you can actually show some grace to those who have hurt you the most, you are not growing. And, I say that to myself even, and you're not a bad person for being judgmental. You're human, you're hurting, but you don't have to stay that way. You don't have to stay stuck in your drama, stuck in your story, stuck in your past, stuck in your ego. You don't have to stay stuck, right? And you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be real and you just need to be thoughtful. So the next time you catch yourself talking crap in your mind and talking mess about other people, gossiping, slandering, creating drama, creating chaos, all because you were hurt, take a deep breath, put your hand on your heart, and say, "Woo! Lord, give me the tender heart of Missy, because I am a mess. And if I am a mess, forgive me, because I know not what I do. I am judging others. I have got the flaw finders on, and I need to take a good hard look in that mirror." And that is how you will heal. If you challenge yourself, to take those flaw finder glasses off and rise above it, stop being so judgmental, and love people for where they're at and help them along the way. It's not up to you to fix them. It's just up to you to sit with them in their pain. And that's how we get to the next level. The whole point of life is to get to the next level. So that's my message for you today, dear watchers. I hope that you have a beautiful, beautiful Monday. If you haven't already anchored in to your wellness foundations, be sure to do so. If you find yourself lost in the storm, remember, you can only control your controllables. And those are what? Those are what you eat, what you drink, what you consume as educational content, how you move your body. And that's how we heal. So stay anchored, stay honest, and drop those freaking flaw finder glasses. We don't need to be worried about what other people are doing. Take a look in the mirror instead. I hope you have a beautiful Monday. I will see you next time.